Am I the a-hole for asking my brother and his family to move out of my house? Posted by Troa310780. If you like these stories and want to see more, please like and subscribe. Long story. I 32F have been friends with Michaela 33F since college. We currently work as RN and share a house. We didn't have any problem until a year ago when my brother Walter, 36, my sister-in-law Jane, 32, and my nephew Samuel, 8, were almost homeless. My brother didn't have a job, and they were facing eviction. I talked to Michaela, and we agreed to let Walter and his family move into our spare room. Walter said he would pay their share of the bills and contribute to rent, which never happened because he never had money. He works on call as a waiter in a friend's restaurant, but this is only when they need him, so he only works part-time, around 3 days a week. When it is time to pay rent and bills, he never has money. He and his family buy their own groceries and cook for themselves, while Michaela and I buy our groceries and cook for ourselves and pay for everything else. A month ago, Michaela and I decided to spoil ourselves after working hard for a year and went on 3 weeks trip to Hawaii. When we returned, we found Walter and Jane decided to house Jane's cousin and her 9 daughters because they were homeless and jobless. This was the final straw for Michaela, and she told me she was going to move out because she wasn't going to pay for more people to live in our house. I didn't want her to move, and I was very irritated with Walter. I felt I was taking advantage of. So we talked to Walter and Jane and had a huge fight. Walter and Michaela called each other all names under the sun. In the end, the position was clear. Jane's cousin needed to leave the next day, and Walter and Jane had a month to find where to live. They found a small apartment a week later and moved out. That's how I found out they had been saving some money by not buying anything for Samuel: clothes, toys, snacks, etc., while I was the one buying this for him because I felt sorry for my nephew. Walter called our parents that lived in a small country in South America, and told them I kicked them out of nowhere when he tried to help a family member that was homeless. That Jane was pregnant, and he didn't have a stable source of income, so they would end in the streets soon. How Samuel cried every night to sleep because they were living in a crap hole full of rats and was so scared. Also, that it was all Michaela making, that they thought Michaela and I were a couple in secret. My parents called me furious and told me they raised me better than this. That family was everything, and it was horribly wrong to turn my back to my brother, especially when Jane was pregnant. They will blame me if something happened to Jane or the unborn baby, and they will never forgive me for making this to my brother. That I will be disowned if I didn't move out of Michaela bad influence. After hearing my parents, I think I may be too harsh on my brother and feel like I'm the biggest on earth. And now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I love how they say they raised you better than this. Well, who raised your brother? There is no question here. They took advantage of you, lied about you, moved people into your home without your knowledge or approval. Not the a-hole. Your brother is a toxic leech. He and his wife took advantage of your, and Michaela's, kindness and, when his game was figured out, tried to turn your family against you. Screw that, and screw him. I feel horrible for your nephew, being stuck with those awful people. You are the furthest thing from an a-hole. You provided them shelter and gave your nephew what he needed. I'm sorry you're in this situation, and I hope your parents see through his facade. And now for our next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my aunt a creep and outing her as a homewrecker? Posted by Ruai. To preface, I 27F have an aunt that is 55F, let's call her Susie. I've never been very close to her as she constantly bullies me, picks on my looks, and when I was 20, she bullied me into an eating disorder. Despite all these things, I stayed cordial to keep the peace in my family. However, last week was my breaking point. For backstory, Susie has 2 daughters, 18 and 14, who are still teenagers, and it's known amongst the whole family that since Susie's divorce in 2016, she has neglected them badly. She doesn't cook, doesn't keep groceries in the home for them, and my cousins have even confided to me that she refuses to buy them new clothing. Despite my differences with Susie, I drop off home-cooked meals to her daughters, will give them hand-me-down clothes, and offer to help them out with schoolwork. Most of the time during my drop-offs, Susie would be on her way out but would always remember to make a jab at me, whether it be what I was wearing or even how my makeup was done. I usually brushed it off, as aggravating as she is. One day, in particular, her eldest daughter confided in me that she wanted to move out because she couldn't deal with Susie anymore. She would constantly yell and make her daughters clean all day and scream if it weren't up to her standards. In addition, Susie was going on multiple dates a week with different men, one of which was married with a 1-year-old baby and was 15 years younger than her. Now I'm not one to gossip, but I told my cousin that if she needed anything that I would be there for her and went back home. The following week was my brother's 18th birthday. I'm newly engaged, and my fiancé and I made our way to my mother's home, where a small get-together was held. In total, there were around 25 people, including Susie and her daughters. Cue my breaking point. Susie was ogling at my fiancé the entire time, 27M. He mentioned that it was creeping him out a bit, and we decided to make our way to the opposite side of the family room. Susie didn't like that and decided to raise her voice and proclaim to my fiancé in front of the entire family that it must be tiring to be with me, and that when he finally got sick of me, he could get with her because she was a cougar. I was livid. Without hesitation, I told her, "You can whore around in your free time and break up marriages all day, but you will not disrespect my fiancé, and you absolute creep and sorry excuse of a mother." The entire room went quiet, and she got up right then and there and took off with her daughters. My family actually supported my reaction and told me that they've wished someone would finally tell her off. I do feel bad because I did cause a scene at my brother's party and told everyone what my cousin told me in confidence. Am I the a-hole? Edit, to those concerned about CPS. I contacted Susie's ex-husband. He's actually a good man, and now his daughters are staying with him and are in safe hands and quite happy. Susie had a meltdown following what happened and, without hesitation, let her ex-husband take her daughters and all their belongings. And now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She had it coming. Years of abuse and torment will bring anyone to breaking point. And if she doesn't like the truth, maybe she needs to question her actions instead of going after everyone else. What she said was incredibly tacky, and she was expecting you to brush it off like normal. Instead, you bit back. The fact that your family agrees with you says it all too. Don't feel bad, you finally had enough, and I doubt she will try much again. She was creeping on a guy half her age, who is also already engaged. Obviously, that wouldn't stop her, but that's not the point. What you said may have been harsh, but it was also 100% true, that's why it stung so bad. On top of all that, that your family supported how you handled it. Unless your brother tells you that causing a scene as you did was a problem to him, you should be fine. You're not the a-hole. She had it coming. But what's getting to me is why has no one called protective services for those kids since that BS started in 2016? Is a 10 and 14 years old at the time being neglected by their mom? No food in the home. They're 18 and 14 now, that's 4 years of everyone in your family ignoring a major issue. And now for our next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to see my dad even though he is really sick? Posted by Electronic Age 947. I am 2 years older than my brother. When I was about to go to college, they said they didn't have the money, and it massively fracked up my plans because they have a high income, so I couldn't get aid and scholarships. I moved out, and I started working because I wanted to save up before going to college. I started college the same year as my brother did. I always assumed my brother was loading up on debt by going to a really expensive private school. I saw a story he posted bragging about having his schooling paid for by our parents. I texted him, and he said he was just bragging online, but I asked Mom, and she is not a good liar, and she fessed up that they were paying for it. It still makes me really fracking angry. I have better grades, I have a better application, but all of that doesn't matter. Nothing I ever do fracking matters. I have not visited home since that day. I worked so fracking hard for my grades. I just don't understand why they don't care. I did all the right things, and they still care more about my brother. My dad is sick. He has cancer. It is pretty bad. My mom is begging me to come back and see him. He is upset too. My brother called me and yelled at me for being a horrible daughter who is a greedy bee. I am worried sick for him, but I can't put myself through visiting him. I am just barely holding on emotionally, but I know they need my support, but I am a huge a-hole for not doing it. And now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your parents treated you as if you were lesser than your brother. You have no obligation to see your dad. Not the a-hole. What your father is experiencing is the consequence of his own lies and favoritism. That family is toxic, and your brother is downright abusive. Greedy? That's a first-rate psychological projection there. Do what's best for your mental health. You might want to check out the sub, Estranged Adult Child. And regarding the Redditors who think you'll be racked with regret later, the red flags are all over this. Op will likely be subjected to more verbal and emotional abuse if she goes. Edit. Another thought, these relatives may be trying to hit up Op for free labor. Nothing in the description says he's on his deathbed. If the doctors decided he had 6 months to live, then he would qualify for hospice assistance. Right now, he's just pretty sick. Which can mean they want help with bedpans, bathing, rides to medical appointments. And they don't want to pay a professional. Maybe because daughters don't deserve an education, but it's a daughter's duty to pitch in when the parent's health fails. Those two outdated beliefs often go together. Not the a-hole. But I worry from how you framed the end of this post that you will come to regret this later if you lose your father and do not see him beforehand. Please carefully consider what you need here. They have let you down terribly with their favoritism. That is extremely cruel and, I have to assume, rank misogyny. But we still sometimes love those who wrong us, and so I would suggest you think carefully about whether you want to let their bad behavior rob you of any chance at a time with your father. Don't listen to their raging. Ignore any attempts at pressure. But think about what you need, here, and then act accordingly. My sympathies, Op, this is a hard hand to be dealt. What's your say on this? Do you have a similar story? Comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.